What is going on? Charles Botensten here. Got a little piece of hair right there. So, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about your health, okay? And why is that the focus of this year? I cannot stress the importance of your health because, number one, if you're in ill health, you don't have much energy. If you are in ill health, it's very expensive. You can't go out, play with your kids. You can't be with your partner as long or as excited as you normally would be. And the reason I'm saying you need to focus on it this year is because most people are going to be focusing on their branding, their video, their Instagram, their job. They're going to be focusing on that. And obviously the market in real estate is not that good. Okay, so the reason I am focusing directly on my health is because I've seen the biggest ROT, which is return on time, and the biggest ROI, which is obviously return on your investment, that I've ever seen in anything. Sales calls is a direct reflection of what I do before those sales calls. If I have a date at night, which I'm going to this year because triathlon training has stopped, not stopped, but my triathlon racing, I'm in the off season. So my energy going into that date is a direct reflection of my day, okay? So there's three areas to focus on, and the first one is essentially the base. And I would have never thought about this, but obviously Matthew Walker has talked about this, which is your sleep. Your sleep is everything, okay? This is the problem, is that most people are not energetic enough to go to bed and immediately fall asleep. They don't expend enough energy to go right into sleeping, okay? So there's a couple things behind sleeping that I'm gonna cover right now. This is at night. Number one is you should not have coffee within 8 hours of sleeping. You should not eat within 4 hours of sleeping, and you should have no alcohol drinks within 3 hours, and that could be even pushed to 5 or 6, but obviously that's tough because if you're going to bed and you're drinking, if you're going to bed at 10 and you're drinking at 5, that means you probably started drinking at 4. So you want to get everything as pushed back as you could. The number one behind that, the ones that I just talked about, is caffeine. Caffeine will essentially stop the ability for you to fall asleep. Okay, most people think that you're tired and then you go to bed, but essentially what happens is there's a chemical reaction that makes you go to bed. Okay, it's released within your body. Okay, and caffeine blocks that, so it thinks you should be awake, but really you're tired, but you don't know it. It's kind of like Zoloft. Zoloft means that you are blocking all emotions from happening. So when people are like, oh, I'm on an antidepressant, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying to not take it. However, this is essentially what happens is that you have two emotions, and for that emotion to be created, there's a synapse connection, and it says, I feel good, I feel bad. But Zoloft cuts that off, so you don't feel anything. It's the same thing with caffeine, is that you should be tired, but caffeine blocks that, okay? On top of that, the number one thing is obviously what I have behind me is blue light. Blue light is brutal. It is the worst thing because our body, listen, if we don't go and understand evolution, we are essentially fighting millions of years of your ability to be healthy, which is sleep in this case, and I'll get into the other two. But essentially, the blue light, your body thinks, oh, blue light, if you look out right now, it's blue light, okay? Why is it amber when we fall asleep and we have blue blocking glasses? That's because of nature. Someone didn't say you should have blue blocking glasses. It's just they're saying your body needs to know that it needs to release melatonin to essentially fall asleep. And it cannot release that if your eyes are getting blue light because your eyes say, oh, it's the middle of the day or in the morning. The morning, it's blue. The evening, it's orange, okay? They've done studies behind this. So essentially, you have this awake during the day and then you fall asleep. And it's released based on that time schedule. And essentially, when you wake up in the morning, your body gives you a certain amount of energy. And you need to expend all of that energy before it starts falling asleep. Okay, so I wake up at 4:30 to 5 o'clock, sometimes earlier, okay? And I go to bed right around 9 o'clock. That is also ideal. You have to go to bed at roughly the same time every single day. You can't fluctuate it because your body says, whoa, what's going on? It's kind of like being in a different time zone every single day. Your body says, hold on, wait, we were asleep yesterday at this time, and then we're waking up at a different time. Roughly within 15 minutes, half an hour most, you should be going to bed. I rarely go to bed past 9:15, like rarely. And that's not good because then I don't feel good when I wake up. So everything happens the night before. So if you wake up and you are exhausted, or if you wake up and you have no energy, think about, this is where emotional intelligence comes from. Think about, what did I do last night? Did I have my iPhone near my bed? Was I drinking? Did I have caffeine? Did I eat too late? Was I thinking about work? Did I exercise before I went to bed? Exercising before you're going, you should not exercise at night because it takes about 6 hours. When you exercise, you have about 6 hours of energy, okay? And obviously that energy fades. You don't have the same type of energy through 6 hours, but you have this high in the first hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. But if you exercise, it's kind of like I used to play hockey at night, and it would end at 9:15. This is a year and a half ago. What's going on, Chris? And this is the thing. I just want to make sure we're hooked up to the Wi-Fi. All right. So this is the thing, is that I would end hockey and then try and get into bed. That's not what you should be doing. You should play. That's why I don't play hockey anymore, okay? And that's why I exercise only in the morning, and that's what I've told my coach, is that I can't exercise in the afternoon. I'm actually going to make sure I make a note on that. Emotional intelligence. So you have to have the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness. So this is the thing, is that if you start doing the same thing, you will start noticing that the most minute thing, which is, I went to bed at 9:15 last night instead of 9 o'clock. I was on my cell phone, or I did not unplug, or I was thinking about work. The smallest thing, you can look back the night before and say, that was what caused me a bad night of sleep. That right there. Yes, actually, I am going to be doing some gym sessions this week. So, and obviously with triathlon training, that's my body type, by the way. You know, some people say the body types and everything else. My body type is definitely an endurance factor. So when you wake up, the number one thing is your phone should not be your alarm. And it should be, mine is Alexa. So I go and I just say, hey, Alexa, she turns off. And then I get out of bed. My phone is not near me. I try and keep it here at work. So the baseline is sleep. That is the number one thing to dial in. And the reason I say that is that there are studies that if you wake up drowsy and you drive, or you do anything, operate machinery or whatever, and you're exhausted, they have actually put it at a BAC level above drunk. In other words, your ability to make clear decisions, your ability to actually perform effectively, your ability to actually do something immediately. Say someone stops in front of you, your alertness, your ability to actually comprehend things. Just travel to New York City, go onto the subway at 7:30 a.m. and look around. Those people are actually probably more aware when they're drunk than when they're tired. That's bad. That's bad. So number one is sleep. Focus on sleep. Okay? That does not preclude you from getting out of bed because you've had a lack of sleep. You have to dial in the sleep to then move into the second one. So I always thought, and this is the thing, is that the next thing is food or exercise, okay? So I used to think it was the food. But now I'm saying if you have a good night of sleep and then you exercise and you get up and you exercise, that essentially is the second priority in your life. Because if you don't, and by the way, at night, you should be dialing in exactly the best way to go to bed. So for me, it's to put on the exact same song. So my mind knows that it's time to go to bed. And then I stretch for 20 minutes to a half an hour, probably about 20 minutes. And I have my Bose noise canceling headphones in, and I sit there and I stretch because stretching is extremely important to start right now. Do not start when you're 50, 60 years old. That has to do with your hydration. That also has to do with all the chemicals that you put in or around your body, okay? Look at your toothpaste, look at your hair products. Look at the skin things that you're putting on. Look at the deodorant. Look at everything that you do. Do you really need that? Do you really need that moisturizer? Okay, I don't moisturize. I barely use Vaseline. I use things where my body says, okay, this area, this is the thing, is that if your body says, okay, this area is going to be, say, used for Vaseline, say your lips or whatever, your body just gets used to that. And then your body gets addicted to moisturizer on your face or your hands or whatever. That's the problem, is that your body is not, once it knows, oh, I don't need to moisturize, or it's naturally going to be done, it doesn't actually, then it compensates for it, and then you are addicted to that product, okay? Instead of just hydrating. Stretching is very important. And also is, if you are in bed, you have to ensure that you just sleep there or you read. That's it. You don't bring your phone in there because your mind needs to understand that when we're in bed, this is the place that we sleep. When we're on our couch, that's where we read. When we're on our chair, that's where we check our phone. Our mind goes to what's familiar. So if it says, oh, we're going to bed, you should try Reek energy on your body. Listen, I'm not really, unless I look at it, and any new products right now, I'm probably not going to do. And the reason being is that I don't need anything on my skin, and I don't need anything in my body. And the reason I'm not against anything like that, but right now I'm running pretty good. So many successful people, Steve Harvey, 6 hours of sleep. It's stupid. Steve Harvey just put out a video where he's like, why are you sleeping 8 hours? The problem is when people sleep 6 hours, they are going against nature. Number two is that at probably a month or 2 months or a year, all of that is going to come. By the way, Gary Vaynerchuk doesn't look like the ideal person for health, okay? Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, maybe, but he was kind of throwing some things into his body. The only one that relatively looks healthy is Steve Harvey. That's the only person that I would potentially, but for 99.9% of the people, we are not getting enough sleep, okay? And the problem is that deficit will come. It's kind of like you're not going to notice if you smoke a cigarette or you have a donut, but you have donuts and you smoke for years. At one time, the bill is going to come due. And it's the same thing with sleep. And we don't know how. We have no idea how it's going to come. It could be just a complete misperformance at work. It could be zero energy with our children. Yeah, listen, send me a DM in Instagram because I have no way to look it up right now. I'm open to things, but the thing is, more products is not what we need. It's really what it comes down to. More products it should be a reduction in products. It should be a minimalistic approach. It should be the same food, so your body gets used to it. It should be the same amount of water every single day. So on top of that is energy. And the reason exercise. And the reason I say that is that the amount of research that's coming out right now is mind-blowing. Okay, it's actually not good. The amount of people that lack the amount of exercise, the basic amount of exercise that they need, will eventually be as bad as sleep as it would be if they just did nothing. Yeah, I would say, yeah, there's a ton of things within sleep. So essentially in your brain, there's a liquid that washes out your brain. And if you eat, your brain heart rate is higher because it needs to digest. So I'm trying to cut back how close I eat to when I sleep. There's actually a process, and it cleans out your brain, and that's essentially when your brain wakes up and you feel great. Your brain had a complete ability to just clean itself. I forgot the name of the process, but they talk about it as something that's probably one of the top things that needs to happen every single day. It's a fluid that comes up from your spine and cleans your brain, and then it gets released into the body, and I think it's just cleaned out naturally either through one of your digestion tracts. But if your heart rate is high, it's because your heart rate is actually taking care of food. So that's why I recommend seeing what your heart rate is, your resting heart rate. The lower, the better. You know, some people are in the 30s. That's David Goggins low. That means you're in crazy good shape. Exercise. You have to get a consistent exercise plan, even if it's just 15 minutes. I would recommend a walking average of about 7,000 to 8,000 steps a day. And the reason being is there's more research based on not the intensity, but at least the consistency of, because some people will go intense for 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, and then they're done for the day, and then they sit all day. And one of my friends is like that. He's at the gym. He hasn't lost a pound of weight in 2 years. And I go, dude, why haven't you come here every single day for 2 years? And he said the one thing is that he sits all day. Once he comes to work, he sits all day. That's not good, okay? The amount of energy, everything happens when you expend energy, okay? So have a consistent plan. And then obviously the third one is food. Okay, I can't stress food, and along with food, actually, I'll bring up mental health. Is that mental health, and I've said it many times, will become the number one next frontier. You know, we've conquered food. There's more people that are over-nutritioned than malnutritioned. We have conquered housing. We've conquered water. We have conquered pretty much everything. Okay, but the mental aspect is obviously next. And the reason being is that there is no need to put yourself through discomfort. Stress is good. Distress is bad. Eustress is good. Eustress means I feel a little bit nervous. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, I was actually just reading from a great blog called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And there's a book that I want to pick up, and it's called Liberated Mind by Professor Stephen Hayes. And it's essentially, here's the outline from Barking Up the Wrong Tree. But essentially a great exercise he actually brings up here. I had to reread it because it's incredible. And he says, I know it's going to sound weird, but stand up, walk around the room, and while doing that, say this sentence a few times. I cannot walk around this room. As you're walking around the room, he says, as you're walking around the room, say, I cannot walk around the room. And he said, a recent study found that this ridiculous exercise increased pain tolerance by 40%. And the reason being is that you're essentially breaking your mind and how you talk to yourself from your body. We think we're our body. We're the person observing our body. This comes down to Michael A. Singer, which I highly recommend. It's called Untethered Soul. You're essentially the observer of your thoughts, okay? Checked out Game Changers on Netflix. No, I haven't. I think I might because I downloaded Netflix to watch one of the Bill Burr specials on Tuesday. So I'm a big fan of Bill Burr. and I did the 30-day trial, which then I deleted right after I downloaded it. But if you actually start understanding, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling where you're having, while you're awake and while you're walking around, you have this outer body experience. And essentially that outer body experience means you feel like you're a drone above yourself, and you're moving and you're talking and you're looking down, and it's the weirdest feeling. It really truly feels like someone else is actually controlling your body, but you're controlling the body, and you're observing yourself control your body, but you don't feel like you're in control. Okay? I've actually had this a couple times while I'm playing hockey. It's nuts. You know you're controlling your body, but you don't feel like you're in control of your body. There's probably a name for it. But essentially, I feel like that's deep consciousness, where essentially you are the observer. You have an unpleasant thought. Okay, so my next post on Instagram is process over outcome. And the reason being is that we don't start something because we feel like it needs to be done perfectly, or we feel like we're not going to get the outcome we want. The first time you go to the gym, of course you're not going to get the outcome you want. The first time you make a sales call, of course you're not going to get it. But we want a perfect outcome every single time. The problem with that is that we can't control the outcome. You could go to the gym for 6 months. You will get in shape. I don't know when. Could be month 2, month 3, month 4. In other words, you have no control when that happens. I can call for 6 months for sales. I don't know if I'm going to get business after month 5, month 6, because someone actually has to say yes. That's completely out of my control. It's like weather. Okay, people complain about it. You have no control over the weather. Enjoy the trip. So essentially what they're talking about here, and what it means to focus on the process, is that you just go into it and you say, well, I don't feel like doing it, but here we go. Let's just do it. You have a fear that comes across your brain. You are the observer of that thought. You are not that thought. So essentially that's what the study was talking about, is that if you were that thought, you wouldn't be able to walk around the room and say, I'm not walking around the room. I'm not walking around the room as you're walking around the room. But essentially they're saying is your thought is different from you. And that's all encompassing. You're the observer of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You have a fear, you have an emotion, you have jealousy, you're pissed off, you're tired, you're embarrassed, you don't feel like doing it. Whatever the case is, you're the observer of that thought. You are not that thought. Okay? So when something bad happens, it's not you, it's just the emotion that feels. So someone tells you, don't ever call me again, I'm never gonna list my property with you. That's not you, that's them. But we think that that outcome is us. You have to divorce yourself from the outcome. It's very hard, and the only way that you can actually do it is repetition of the process. And the only way to actually enjoy the process is if you understand that you're doing it to get better. You understand that the process is the only way to mastery. You have to understand that you are seeing results that are potentially better than last time by the process. So if I call and someone says, I'm never gonna list my property again, and the first time I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Say the second time they say, I'm never gonna list my property with you. I then say, oh, okay, that's not like live and it's already happening, believe you or the, yeah, I would say it's, if the believing that you are someone outside of who you are is good because you're living into that. That is the end result, though. The process of becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger or Michael Jordan, as Tim Grover says, is essentially what they focused on, and that's why understanding the monotony of the process, because it will become very monotonous. It is very boring to do this. Okay, meditating every day. Why am I going to meditate every day? I said it in my Instagram post a couple of days ago, is that there is no finish line. Do you say I love you and your relationship is perfect forever? Do you make one sales call and you have sales forever? Do you approach one pretty girl and every girl wants to give you their, no. You have to do it every single day. That's why you have to fall in love with the process and not the outcome, with the outcome of improving, getting better every single day, and knowing that you're going to mastery and understanding that it's going to be boring because it will become boring at one time. and divorcing yourself from the actual thought. So meditation really helps with that. And silence helps with that. Just getting off social media as well. I've noticed when I catch myself watching a YouTube video that's drama filled, or looking through a post and someone throws up a beautiful new home that they're representing, I look at myself and sometimes I say, why'd they get that home? Why not me? And that's the thing, is that's what it causes. Instead of saying, good for them, or I'm watching drama, I shouldn't be. Things like that, okay? So I'm gonna leave. The number one to focus on is sleep, because all encompassing, that has to do with your night routine, how you go to bed. And that also has to do with how you wake up. Keep the phone on airplane mode at work or away from you. Don't have it as your alarm. Don't have caffeine within 8 hours. Don't have alcohol within 4 hours. Don't eat within 4 hours. It could be even longer. Ideally, it's longer. Waking up, don't go on your cell phone while you're in bed. That's going to become a habit. Number two, when you wake up, go exercise. Don't exercise at night, because you're going to have that high for 6 hours and then you're not going to be able to sleep. Okay? Number three is the food that you eat. You have to turn around the packaging. They will say 0 grams of sugar, but now the marketing companies, I don't know if you saw my Instagram story when I was down in Louisville, the marketing companies of these big corporations have said 0 grams of sugar, but that's 0 grams of solid sugar. But you turn the package around and they have a line item and it says 10 grams of liquid sugar. There we go. That's how they do it. Sugar is the worst thing for you, hands down. It is the worst thing that could be produced. It's addictive. It breaks down the collagen in your skin so you look older. It wrinkles your skin. It totally screws up your gut. So in other words, leaky gut means that you have holes in your gut and it just goes throughout your body, and then you get bloating and gas as probably the best result. But when you have leaky gut, that means that all of the things that you're eating is now throughout your body. And then when it's throughout your body, it latches on to things. And then that's essentially, sugar is the cancer forming start. Okay? Stress is too. Distress is up there as well. If you have consistently high heart rate throughout the day, when you don't need it, when you're not exercising, when you're not walking, when you're not climbing a flight of stairs, that's not good. That's why you have to track your heart rate. Like right now, my heart rate is 82. I don't know if you can see that. 82 is pretty good. It has my high and my low on there. You can see my low is 46. That's really good, okay? And I'll notice I had 143. That's probably when I was in a dead sprint to make the train before. But 143 is really high. It should not be 143. And the reason being is for this past week, I've been in off-season mode, so I haven't gone to the gym. And then starting Monday I'm back at the gym every single day until triathlon training, or until my next races, which is next year. But for me, I needed that week off, or this week off, to get really excited, because it's really, really hard to do 19 hours of triathlon training on top of a 40 plus week and ensure that you are a normal human being throughout life. But that's what I know. So focus on that. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is that if you have no goals, and this is the goals of a process, this isn't the outcome, but the process. The process is, I will do 20 push-ups per day. I will approach one person per day. The process goals are more effective, because then when you look at your process goals next year, you could say, I can now do 25 push-ups. Or instead of saying, I have a really good physique, or I have more energy. What's more energy? How is that comparable to what? If you say, I want to bring my heart rate down to 50s, for me, is that anything above a resting heart rate above 48, 49, that's not, I have to look back and say, what am I doing wrong? Because my resting heart rate is usually 44 to 46. Okay, David Goggins is in the 30s. That's because he doesn't drink, he eats properly, and he exercises like a mofo. And he got his mind right, and he stretches every day. So that's what happens, when you get to that level. But anyway, have an amazing week. 2020 is around the corner. It's going to be November. It's going to be December. Start writing and journaling now, in silence, every single day. What do I want? What is the process to get there? So for me, I have long-term goals, but I would say my process is to make 50 calls a day. It's to not miss more than one out of, I haven't thought about it, probably 1 out of 45 days of exercise. So my coach puts in the exact exercise. And I would say, relationship-wise, I would say I would want to at least be going out, no need to drink, but going out and meeting women, at least, that I have to think about as well, because it's just, work, that's the phone booth. Anyway, have an amazing week.